So next we have the Microsoft team, and we have Wole and James. I think I saw you here, so if you want to take the spotlight.
I am here, and I must apologize to everyone if my voice starts to go a bit. I had no voice when I started this morning, but I'm so keen to do this session with everyone that I hope you bear with me if I take an odd sip of tea as I go through. But thank you. I just have to say, Jennifer, that was such a great presentation. I can't wait to set up a video call and have a chat with you. It's really, really interesting to see how you set up all those ambassadors and made Yammer such a success, especially in an organization such as yours, which I know has, regulations and all those things. So great job. So yes, for those of you who don't know me, I am James. I am on the Yammer customer engagement team with Steve Wynn, who I think almost all of you know. And today, myself and my awesome colleague Wole, who I'll ask to introduce in just when we get to his slides, are going to be talking about what's happening with Yammer, what's the future look like, and what's this Viva Engage direction that we have been heading in. But first of all, I just thought, as this is into the last leg of the 3 legs of the Yammer Festival, I wanted to extend our thanks and congratulations to the Swoop team for the tremendous amount of work that it takes to put on such an event. We hugely value the partnership that we have with you, the events, the benchmarking report, and all the hard work you put in, the case studies. I just wanted to call out and say thank you so much. And we look forward to continuing to collaborate with you. Now, we've been talking a lot about the employee experience in Microsoft, and there's a lot of stuff that talks about, what does a great employee experience do? What does a digital employee experience do? And the Yammer team have always been focused maybe more on what does it make you feel? Like, what does it help you bring to build culture, to build belonging, to build inclusion? And so we took a step back a bit earlier this year to think about what does a great employee experience make you feel? And these are the things that we have been working on and are excited to share with you in this session today. So just a few things. We know that we want to be able to feel encouraged to build connections outside of our immediate team, which will help build belonging and culture, to get a better understanding of who we work with, whether it's both sort of professionally or personally, and importantly with our leaders, to get to know them, to know what are their priorities and how do we contribute to those. And finally, how do we help those people that have questions in our hybrid work environment get answers and get support and get help? And why did all this come about? For those of you who have looked at our amazing hybrid work report, we know that everyone, thanks to the pandemic, in admittedly, our knowledge worker roles, have been starting to revise what it actually means to be at work. What's worth it? Who do we need to connect with? How do we need to build those connections? And really show why we want a hybrid work experience, not just the old coming into the office and that sort of unplanned serendipity of connections happening. We've been reviewing our personal lives and how that integrates with work. And we know that we spend more time in online meetings. We don't know, the full reason why we're connected to our work. And we want to help that. We want to help people feel more connected. We want to help people feel like they have an impact in the work they deliver. And especially we want to help leaders build relationships and facilitate the relationship building of others as well. And this is where Microsoft Viva came from. The idea of building an integrated employee experience platform all in one place. You access everything through Teams, which you're using to do your work anyway, and not have to go out to multiple different tools to connect with different people, a different tool for different parts of that digital employee experience. Now, many people on the call today are organizations that have used Yammer and have used it for many years, and people such as Jennifer who have used it so well. But what we wanted to do was bring those powers of Yammer to be able to help people express and share their best selves, to feel like they belong to something more, to build community, to help leaders engage with employees and bring them into that sense of mission, and to empower those people to find answers. The same things are available in Viva Engage. Viva Engage is bringing these experiences and these powers into teams. And the goal of Viva, all up for the whole of Microsoft Viva as well, is to connect employees and empower everyone to contribute and express their best selves. Now, you've probably seen this in other Viva apps. There's Viva Learning that was brought into Teams. You can see that Viva Engage is bringing the same experience into Teams. Viva Insights as well. And that is Viva Engage. We redesigned the experience. We made a few things pop a bit more. We drew people's attention to what we want them to do, which is to focus on consuming the great conversations that are going on, and to encourage them to start making those posts themselves. But essentially, those key capabilities are the same that everyone who has been using Yammer for many years is familiar with. And the real focus of Viva Engage is to help people build meaningful relationships and communities at work, to give us all a place to connect, express, find that belonging at work, and empower leaders and others to create a culture of open sharing, mutual support, peer learning, and wide collaboration. I'm going to hand off to my excellent colleague, Wole, who's going to jump into some specific capabilities that we have been so excited by that are available right now for you and your employees.
Good morning and good afternoon for those of people in the East Coast. I'm very, very excited to talk to you today. As James said, my name is Irewole Akande. Most people just know me as Wole. So if you have any chance to talk to me, you can call me Wole or Irewole, depending on which one you prefer. So I am currently a product manager with the Storyline team, and we are the ones that are focused on building experiences that are going to power the next generation of what we are calling Viva Engage. So I'm super excited to talk to you through our products. Throughout the course of this particular conversation, I'll show you some work on Storyline, the different components of Storyline, and some good examples that you can take back to your company to leverage the beautiful thing that we're doing. So Storyline, why Storyline? Storyline is more or less the answer to the question, which part of Yammer is mine? If you understand, for the last few years, Yammer had communities where you could post to. Leaders go post in the communities, different people form all these different groups, but there was always that missing piece of what part of Yammer is actually mine. And that's exactly what Storyline does. Storyline actually allows you to share your work experiences, build connections with people, follow people you're interested in, follow your leaders, engage with them over the Yammer and Viva Engage network. So you can use posts, you can use videos, you can use images to really share that. So the screenshot you're seeing there is what my Storyline looks like. So I have my profile picture, I have my cover background customized to myself. I can post, different ways you can share stories and, post within Viva Engage. So there are two ways you can actually post, or two ways you can actually share content with Viva Engage. The first one is really around posts, right? So with posts, you can tag different people. So this is a post I did for the conversation I'm going to be having today. I'm going to be speaking at the Yammer Festival. I can upload a video, I can post a link, I can post an image, so people can actually interact that very, very easily. They can see what exactly I'm doing and they can react, they can like, and they can comment. The next thing you can actually do is share stories. So I'm an avid runner. I run every day. That's kind of my thing. So within my workspace, I can say like, hey, this is the Yammer gear that I got. And you can share that. It's a media first way to more or less consume information. So right now, Storyline is actually G8, and we have over 4.5 million active users and 400 daily people that are actually posting on Storyline. 400,000 people that are posting on Storyline. So if you haven't, you better get on it. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is what is the reason and what's one very, very important use case scenario, and that is around leadership. So funny enough, I talked to Jennifer a lot, so we've had a lot of back and forth conversations on the work that we're doing. And one of the conversations we're hearing is that leaders don't really know how to leverage Viva Engage and Yammer to really engage with their employees. So what we're going to show you in the next slide is going to say, like, this is how we are sort of doing that in Microsoft. This is how our leaders are adopting this tool to make sure they can connect with their employees, they can be their best selves, and they can, communicate at scale to their employees. So Storyline allows leaders to actually just share their updates, experiences, their thoughts, their perspective using their own voice. You can reach people everywhere. You can reach people in Outlook. You can reach them in Teams. You can reach them in Viva Engage. You can reach them on Microsoft Viva. But more than that, you can amplify your impact. You can engage your organization. You can understand the sentiment of how your employees feel. You can really connect to why they connect with you. And that just ties back to what James talked about earlier about like how do employees feel at work today. So what should I post? So with leaders, right? Leaders have an opportunity to say like, hey, I want to celebrate my team. I want to show the people that are getting promoted. I want to talk about people that have been here for 10 years, people that have been here for 15 years, people that have engaged in the organization and really driven the organization from point A to point B. How do I celebrate them? Leaders have an opportunity to do that. So if you see here, Scott has 173 followers, but if you look out there, about 8,000 people have seen his post. So this post that he puts on Storyline, they're able to see it and they're able to celebrate, the different, initiatives that the company is working on. And that's one easy way to do that. More than that, we have, Jeff Tipper. Jeff Tipper posts every week. And every week, what Jeff Tipper does is that he gives a 5-minute update on things that are going on within his team. So the members of his organization can come see him, see what he's talking about, and go from there. I think my slides just changed. I'm not sure what just happened.
We can see the storyline.
Yeah. Which slide do you need, Wole? And I'll make sure to move it for you.
So I wanted to go back to where do I post? I think. Am I there?
What Perfect. Should I post? Yeah.
Yes. So, and the last thing and one really good example is Catherine. So Catherine she's one of our CVPs within the organization, and Catherine does an incredible job showing what it means to be a mother and be at work. And she posts these videos that highlight the incredible work her teams are doing. So she has these different ways of doing that. She tags her team and people can engage and they can sort of create like a more holistic environment for them to exist within her team. So stories. So stories, like I mentioned, are a different way to post. So they're like a media-centric way. So you can use this in many, many ways, right? So the key components you can see on the stories is that it shows you how many people have viewed your stories. That's the reach. You can see it right there where it says view reach. You can add like descriptions on what exactly you want to do. You can add different content, additional information, topics. You can have comments. You can reply to employees. You can actually record directly from your stories carousel. So you can actually create a story. But more than that, you can take existing content and upload it too. So if you're creating something for a LinkedIn, but you want to share internally, you don't have to, make another video. You can repurpose a video you've already made and upload that directly. And then you can see all the people that are posting within the stories carousel. And it's a very, very engaging media first way to share content. So that's how you see you engage with stories. When you think about, okay, what are the other ways you can use stories? So the first thing is really around bring employee behind the scenes, right? So is there a D&I conference that you have? Is there a conference that you're speaking to that employees are not allowed to go? Can you showcase that? Can you highlight that using images, using video? Can you get communicators to really share their perspective? Like, hey, this is what's going on in the industry. This is how I think you should engage with, certain content. So there are different ways you can leverage things across different organizations or different teams within your organization. So you can also share more than just work things, right? So you go hiking on a nice hiking trip. You can share like, hey, this is a trip I took with my son. This is a trip I took with my dad, and just really build a more holistic sense of self that people can connect with and engage with and react to within your company. And then more than that is people on the front line. So there are different like frontline workers, information workers, right? How do you get insight into what's happening on the front line? how can you communicate that? How can you showcase so people can be a part of the company as a whole rather than within their own little box? So Yammer and Viva Engage allows you to cut across those boundaries. And now I'm going to tell you a very interesting story. And this is a very personal one, right? So as we move to the next slide, I'll tell you what exactly you're looking at. So I started out in Microsoft in July. I started as a remote worker, right? So most of my team is split between either California or Seattle, right? But I started out my role in Dallas. So what you're going to see here is that you're going to see the first post I made. So I decided to run an experiment. How do I actually start building a community for myself? How do I create a space where I can actually meet people within my organization, right? And that's when I made my first post. That was July 26th, a few weeks after I started. My first post, I really was very vulnerable, and I talked about how like it's very hard being like, you know, a remote worker. I'm a super extrovert. I love meeting people, but I can't get to meet my coworkers, right? Can I just share something about me, what I like doing? I love cooking. I work from home. These are the things. And from that, I had people that actually reacted. They shared things with me. They commented and said like, oh, I'm very into cooking. I also do Duolingo. Let's learn the language together. And a few months later in October, when I got to visit the Seattle office, all of the people that commented on my first post were the people that served as hosts to me. Right now, I've been able to connect more with my team. I've been able to really connect with them past that. I'm a remote worker. I don't have an opportunity, you know, to meet them in person. And I can see, okay, who are the people that reacted to my post? What are the impressions? How do people feel? And that has made my life so much better as a remote employee. So I've been able to get like a little bit more comfortable sharing the different things I'm doing, talking about the work I'm going to and all of those things. And that's what Storyline has done for me as a person. So even though I ran this as an experiment, it has been one of the most fulfilling things I've done. So more than just what we're doing with Viva Engage and Storyline, it's actually very personal in the impact it can have on the life of an employee, the lives of leaders and experts that are willing to share that. So thank you so much, and I'm going to hand that back over to James.
Thank you, Wole. That was awesome. I know Wole. We talk maybe once a week in meetings, but I know so much more about him, and hopefully he does me as well because of his experiment here. It's a great way to get to know your colleagues. And we're building upon this. But first of all, I just want to do a quick recap. We've been building a lot of stuff that if you have Yammer licenses right now, you have access to over the past year. Things like the Viva Engage app, bringing you into Teams, Storyline and Stories, as Wole has just explained. Upvote answers, native mode, the Yammer admin role in AAD, giving some of our Yammer owners in companies the ability to actually take control of some of the Yammer settings without having to go to their Office 365 admin in IT every day. Dark mode, which I have turned on every day as well. And restricted communities for those who want to quieten some of those communities and have them as a more kind of corporate channel. But where are we headed with Viva Engage? This is going to be quite quick because we've seen so many questions. I want to get to those as well. But we are building premium capabilities that are going to be part of the Viva licenses. And these are going to be available very early next year, first quarter of 2023. The first of these is taking what Wole showed you today and adding so much more to it. So imagine you're working behind leaders and you've put in a lot of effort to get them to post and you want to help them get that reach. We have things like being able to automatically create audiences for those leaders that will get notified when the leaders make posts to their storyline. We'll have some analytics, and we are building an Ask Me Anything capability. So for those of you who use live events within Yammer or Viva Engage, a similar concept, but instead making it more about posting, whether it's, excuse me, making it more about posting and an asynchronous engagement opportunity for leaders as well. We're going to be bringing the ability to create multiple Ask Me Anythings as a way to, if you know, I have loads of questions of my leaders, and the ability to have them let the people who are running it from behind the scenes have control, have some moderation capabilities as well. And then over the time that you set for the event itself, whether it's 3 days or 2 weeks or longer, the ability to actually see what leaders are wanting. And because we're bringing capabilities such as upvoting to it, leaders will get a really strong idea as to what the important questions are that employees have for them. So here is an example. You'll see that we've been upvoting the questions and giving you a really strong idea as to what is top of mind, and then providing a summary for employees to see what are those highlights, what were those top questions, what were those engagements. But storyline stories and the enhanced storyline are all about, you know, kind of individuals, but how about us bringing together groups of leaders and creating a personalized experience for employees dependent on the leaders that are most relevant to them. So Leadership Corner is a way for people working behind the scenes to identify leaders with audiences for those leaders, and create this personalized experience that will roll up from the activity of all those leaders in your organization, whether it's community posts, storyline posts, stories, connections to Ask Me Anything. So imagine it could be that you identify the C-suite. We want to keep it simple. We just want to have the top leaders in an organization, and every employee can go to the Leadership Corner and see the activity of those top leaders. But you can drill down, you can make it more personal. So maybe for marketing, what you see, if I sit in marketing, I see the CMO and the other marketing leaders. Or regional, I see the Canadian team that are the leaders that I first see. And so the ability to create these personalized two-way engagement experiences, really helping, you know, if you're internal comms or digital workplace HR, really helping you to humanize those leaders, to help create that trust and belonging in the organization, by building those connections and building that engagement. See here, we are rolling up. There we go, pulling from storyline videos, and we're going to give some data insights onto that as well. So some personal analytics to let me know, you know, how have my posts been performing? Have I been engaging people? Have I been creating those connections? You know, what kind of engagement am I getting from those? Am I building those connections across an organization? Audience-wise as well, for those of you internal comms, you know, what are people thinking? What are they feeling across the organization? And again, is our work building two-way conversation and connection in the organization, rather than just maybe pushing out broadcast messages? And of course, telling you, you know, what are the most active communities and things like that. Now, if you think about it, we've got storyline, and then we're going to help you as people running Yammer Viva Engage networks with Leadership Corner, starting to scale. I think, Jennifer, you said at the beginning that, you know, we're a small team, and we know that a lot of our customers are a small team in order to create that engagement. So we want to help scale your efforts, and the ability to have a homepage for hashtag campaigns a part of that. We know that so many of you use hashtags to drive campaigns across your Yammer and Viva Engage network, and we want to give you a bit of support. You'll be able to create a homepage for those elevated hashtags, for that hashtag campaign. You'll be able to have multiple going on at any one time. We are looking at things like the ability to have different colors for the hashtags, for different hashtag campaigns, and to do things that just help you create engagement in those. So be able to set a goal. We're going to have some templates that you'll be able to work with or create your own that actually tells people, what is this campaign for? To highlight, we all know how important it is to get those leaders on board. And as a bit of a, you know, a helping hand for you to have them show up as executive sponsors is a great way to help you nudge them to maybe participate a bit more than they were beforehand. And what's really nice is it's not just going to roll up from posts and communities. It's going to roll up things that appear in people's storyline and their stories as well. So suddenly it's this multimedia, much more engaging way of getting people into those conversational campaigns that we know you all run and work very hard to create engagement through. And here you'll see a campaign management dashboard to help, again, you scale your efforts behind the scene. You can have them in different statuses so you can get them all prepped. You don't have to create a private community and then launch it for everyone. You can create things behind the scenes, get it ready to go, and then launch and engage everyone and close it when you feel the time period has elapsed. My slides have stopped moving there. Oh, we'll be providing data behind those campaigns as well. I feel my apologies, my PowerPoint Live is catching up with my mouse clicks. The final thing that we have been building, and this one gets me really excited actually. Who of you have questions every day in your hybrid organizations? For many of us, we're working in such large organizations, we're working hybrid across the world anyway. But where do you go when you have a question that you just don't know the answer to? You can jump in and you can make posts in a Yammer community. You could use Teams, you could use email, but we want to make it a much more structured, easier experience using the powers that we've tested and developed in Yammer, now in Answers in Viva. You will be able to ask a question, and talking to that scale part, the intelligence behind the system is then going to go check, have questions like this been asked before? With integrations with Viva topics, those questions will be able to be routed to subject matter experts that you have identified previously to say, you know, hey, Wole, this is a question about stories and storyline. Could you answer it? Because we know you're the expert for it. You'll be able to see your activity with the ability to upvote the questions, which will give organizations more insights into what do we need to train better on? What do we need to communicate more on? You know, just the act of asking a question starts such a significant conversation that the insights that are being developed are really important. And we're also taking the powerful capabilities that many of you have used in our question and answer communities and question type. So the ability to upvote answers, to mark the best answer as well. But for those of you who are familiar with tools like Reddit and Quora, it's a similar kind of capabilities. But in a lot of our organizations, we mark something the best answer by creating a formal document and putting it on our intranet and pointing everyone to it. But with Answers in Viva, the conversation can still continue because we know that getting that tacit knowledge out of people's heads into something more structured and searchable and engaging is something that we miss in a lot of our organizations. So the ability that even though we've marked a best answer, it may not be the best answer forever, we can still continue with that conversation. And recognizing people for that engagement, and also with some data as to what the kind of engagement has been, what the top questions are, and excuse me, and what people have been asking, who has been answering, you know, is everyone helping there? So just a quick recap, all the premium capabilities around leadership, campaigns and answers, we're going to go into public preview and GA in very early next calendar year. And in case you need some help getting started, we have our amazing updated Viva Engage Adoption Center, which has our storyline lookbook, which our amazing colleague Alison has been working on. And we'd like to invite you to jump to if we have any questions.
That was great, James. We do have lots of questions.
Figured so. I hope I didn't go on too long.
I think no, not at all. And I think some of your colleagues have actually been answering them, but I'm going to still read them out in case people haven't caught up. So I'm just going to pick a few to choose from. So let's go through the first one. So is Viva Engage a wrapper on Yammer, or does it have capabilities that you don't have if you go directly to Yammer?
Yes, I think of it as Viva Engage as a way to bring Yammer into Teams. So the capabilities that are in Yammer are also in Viva Engage and vice versa. So if you create a community in Viva Engage, it will appear if you go to the Yammer web app, the Yammer mobile app. If you make a post in Viva Engage, you will be able to engage with it in multiple places, including in Viva Connections if you have the Yammer feed in there, and in our outlet notifications, which, as Jennifer highlighted in the last presentation, drives so much of that engagement. So imagine Yammer as this system powering everything in the back end, and Viva Engage is the way that you access it in Teams. So you have your small group on the top left, you have your chat for one-on-one, one or two, really small interaction. Then you have your teams and channels for project groups, working groups, standing teams, those kind of things. And then you have Viva Engage for your organizational wide communication and collaboration.
That's great, thank you. We've got a question from Tim. So they're using a government tenant. Can I see or access a preview of Engage?
I think that's one Tim will have to take offline. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I don't know if any of my colleagues can answer that one in there.
I'll let someone reach out to Tim if that's possible. Can the answers be restricted to a community?
So Answers is a separate system. You don't actually need Yammer in order to use Answers in Viva. We'll be building integrations more closely between the two, but think of more Answers as a kind of knowledge management system that connects with Viva topics. And over time, we'll be developing ways to bring them closer to Answers into more connection with communities as well.
Thank you, James. Is Viva Answers in Premium Engage? There's a lot about the Premium Engage here. So is Premium Engage part of the Viva suite or additional?
So Viva Engage premium capabilities, and that was Premium Storyline, Leadership Corner, Campaigns, and Answers in Viva, are all part of Viva suite licenses right now. So in order to have them, when they go to GA in January, in early Q1, you'll have to have Viva licenses. So definitely something to go talk to your Microsoft account team about in order to have access to them.
Thank you. Another question here. So how will elevated hashtags differ from topics? That's a good question.
Yeah, let's so for those of you who run campaigns in Yammer right now, I don't know if when I run Yammer networks in the past, I would download the CSV afterwards, or if I was lucky enough to have a tool like Swoop and I'd go in and run all the calculations in the background, clear out the content that wasn't part of that campaign. So hashtags appear in the actual text of the thread itself. And when you click on a hashtag right now, you get a roll-up of every single post that has that hashtag in. So it's not going to be connected to topics in that way. It is more as if you're on Twitter or if you're on LinkedIn or you're on Instagram, and the way that you use hashtags there, you click on one, what you'll see is everything in that campaign. So if you created a homepage for it, you'll be able to see all the activity. So when people run social media campaigns externally, they pick, a hashtag that doesn't exist yet. And similarly, you'll be able to create your homepage for those campaigns and the hashtag that you wish to use. And then it will use that hashtag to roll up to that page, all the activity and storylines, stories, and community posts. Topics are kind of separate to that.
Yeah, thanks, James. I'm going to ask another question, then I'm going to see if anyone wants to come off mute, if they're brave enough to ask questions. But I'm just going to ask this quick question. So the Ask Me Anything, will that just be connected to storylines, or will it be added to communities as well?
It's going to be part of someone's storyline right now. So especially thinking of it around a leader. So so many of our leaders have been using it internally. We want it to be attached to the person because you're asking the person. That's the purpose of it. And it's a kind of simpler way to create engagement, especially with leaders. For those of you who have to handhold leaders, because it's asynchronous and moderated, you'll be able to kind of make it maybe a bit safer for them and help them, work behind the scenes with manage on behalf of, which is the storyline coming version of post on behalf of, and really help them build confidence in this whole two-way engagement piece, which we know a lot of you work very hard to do.
Thanks, James. Does anyone want to ask a question? I'm conscious that I'm just talking at the moment. Is anyone brave enough to come off and ask a question? Tim, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, hi, I'm Tim. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I work at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, which is actually in Washington. My question is, I want to go back to the topics and hashtags. You gave a lot of information about what the hashtag is, and then you just said topics are different. Can you tell us how they're different? Because everything you explained about hashtags, to me, sounds like topics as well. So if you can tell me how they differ, I'd appreciate that.
Tim, why don't you stand, because I know that we have an extra thing that we have to go on to in this session. Feel free to ping me on Teams, and I'll be more than happy to have a talk with you, provide a bit more detail. It's a longer answer that we can probably do in 30 seconds here.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else? No? Oh, maybe our hand.
This is, oh, sorry.
Go for it. Go for it.
This is Mike Duffy. I had a question on the messages that go out, email related to sort of like the SharePoint news. I think it's like see what is new posts or what's new in your area or something like that. So is there any way to pilot Viva Engage without like a storyline getting sent out to your entire company? Other than like blocking Yammer emails and stuff like that, because similar to like SharePoint news, it'll send something out.
Yeah, I think you're asking maybe two slightly different things. So the email digest is something that individual users have control over. So in their notification settings, they can turn off the daily and the weekly email digest. But as Jennifer said in her presentation earlier, those things actually drive a huge amount of engagement because we're meeting people where they work, in this case in Outlook. When you're talking about Storyline, which also has a Storyline email digest, you have the ability to turn Storyline off in the Yammer admin settings as a setting called Manage Storyline. So those two things are slightly separate, but emails, users have full control over turning those on or off. But again, as I said, they drive a lot of the engagement that internal comms are looking for. But Storyline in the Yammer admin settings, you can turn those off if you wish.
Thanks, James. I can see, is it Serge? Serge Roy has got their hand up.
Just a simple question, because I find that for the users, it's already kind of complicated to have their minds focused on what is Teams, what is OneDrive, and all of that. And when you look at the really basic functionalities about Yammer versus Teams, Yammer is all about communities. So I find that when we see Viva Engage as an add-on in Teams, we don't see like the community side of it as we've seen it before. And it feels to me that it's an extra change management activity to do just to help them figure out what it is. So did you have like previous stats on adoption for Yammer communities within the Teams? Because I'm a big fan of Yammer. I'm always helping clients figure out that in Teams you just work, you edit documents. You don't do that in Yammer. You just talk, you chat, you engage. So that's all good and great, but we have to really simplify that for them to understand why they would adopt such a tool, whatever the name tag is, whether it's Viva Engage communities or Yammer and all of that. And when you look at research about how people work and engage, well, your inner circle is in Teams, and your strong relationships are in Teams. And in Yammer, in Viva Engage, in communities, you would work on your weak ties, as they say. So do you have any stats on the adoption previous to Viva Engage? Because it's pretty new about Yammer communities usage within Teams in the market.
I don't have anything that we could share. I always think that the best source of Yammer and other data is Swoop's benchmarking report. I don't think there's anything better in order to learn how companies are using Yammer and Viva Engage. And I understand about the messaging and the branding, but one thing I'd recommend is hearing all the presentations over yesterday and this morning, and the ones that I know we're going to hear today, I think it's far more valuable to learn from other customers than necessarily having Microsoft tell you how you should do it. I think stories like Jennifer's are so compelling. Every organization is different, but there'll be enough tips and tricks that you can take and use in your organization. And also our Adoption Center, both the Yammer Adoption Center and the Viva Engage Adoption Center, have huge resources on how you deploy, how you market, how you launch, and all of those kind of things. But we do know that Viva Engage is driving a lot of new activity for existing Yammer networks, and of course, driving activity for new Yammer networks as well.
Great. Could you provide the link to the adoption center you just talked about in the
just
chat?
up in the chat. It was popped in. Yeah, no worries.
We'll get someone to share it for you. I think I'm going to finish it off there, but there are lots of questions, and I just can see that Wole has just added a comment in the chat, so get in touch. Honestly, great session. Thank you, both of you.